Hey guys, Coach Adam talking to you with another bikini review today. We had the Wasatch. The Wasatch was here this last weekend and it was an awesome show. So first off, I wanted to go into the actual Wasatch Warrior and the production of the Wasatch Warrior. So I got to admit, guys, if you're going to be going to a show this year or next year and you're planning on doing a show maybe 12 months from now, Wasatch Warrior is the one to go to. Awesome venue, awesome experience. Competitors had great goodie bags. There was a lot of pros. I mean, they really went all out. Sponsors were everywhere. It was just an awesome show. The production was high, really, really high end stuff. You know, sometimes you never know what you're going to get at a show. If you're going to end up in a high school auditorium in an old school and it's just, you don't feel like a star. Wasatch Warrior is not that. Wasatch Warrior is at an expo. It's like a convention center. It's a huge show, beautiful production. The medals are awesome. The overall champions get these huge battle axes. So awesome show to go to as an NPC competitor or of course as an IFBB competitor. They had pro men's physique, pro bikini, pro figure. You know, it's a lot of money to put on these productions with 3 pro shows. And so, thank you very much to Robin, who put on just an amazing production, one of my favorite shows. I'll be there again next year, probably just every year ongoing. Just an awesome production. So first off on that, Wasatch Warrior and Robin, like, great job. It's rare that I talk about the actual shows, but this show, like, high level stuff, really high level stuff. But let's go into what you guys want to go into, and let's go into the bikini throwdown. So this show, I will say, guys, this was a bikini bodybuilding show. The biggest bikini class this season by far, the most muscular bikini girls I've seen this season by far, in the top 4. It's like miles away from other shows. Now, I will say not with Amy though, but with the other 3 in the top 4, it was a very, very muscular bikini show. It was like bikini bodybuilding. If you compared the pictures of bikini competitors in the top 4 at this show versus even like 4 years ago, it's a totally different thing. They are really, really muscular. But let's go ahead and go into it as a breakdown. You know, what's really great about this show, JM Mannion was there, NPC News Online was there. They have all these comparisons for us right away. So usually I'm putting the 4 and I'm trying to crop them and make them match together, but you can go right to NPC News Online, look at JM's pictures. He's got all the top 4 callback for us already. So they're perfectly sized. There's nothing skewed. I do my best to always match them up, but hey, they did it for us. Thank you very much, JM, on that, with the awesome photography as always. And looking at the picture, let's go ahead and go into it. Some cool stories with this show too. So we have Allison Testu, who last year, if you guys were following her, she was thinking about going to wellness. So she was trying to do wellness for, 2 years ago. And she was doing it for, I want to say, about 18 months or so going into wellness. So she was getting bigger and bigger and really pushing those legs. Now, here's the thing about Allison is she always had issues with her glute proportions, right? So it was always the muscle, it was always the glute proportions. Look at her crazy glute profile. You know, last week we talked about Brittany Gillespie with her crazy glute profile. Allison is even greater in her glutes than Brittany when it comes to the glute. And it is a glute dominance thing, right? We talked about Brittany being a little bit glute dominant. Allison, very glute dominant. That is definitely an area that if she can correct that, it will make her move up the ranks, because that is a little bit overpowering, a little bit much for a bikini. But again, we have the wow factor to go into. The wow factor is there, and that does sometimes offset the balance. You know, we talked about it. Brittany, one of my favorite physiques, has the wow factor with the glutes. Sometimes it's going to work for her. Sometimes it's going to work against her. Laura Lee, same thing. She's got wow factor with the glutes. Those are a little bit too big for bikini standards of today. But sometimes, you know, obviously with her, it doesn't hurt her because everything else is so good. So Allison, crazy shape, crazy structure, very muscular up top. I was talking to her backstage. She did a show recently this year, and she said she came down 4 kilograms for this show from the last show. So she is bringing down her structure. She is bringing down the muscle. Still a lot of muscle for this show. Now, I think because of who was there, she was able to crawl into that top 4. But if she was at a show with, let's say, regular size muscular bikini competitors, you know, when you're talking Malus and Isas and Ashleys and Janets and that level of muscle, I think she would stand out as being too muscular. But look at who she's next to, Brittany Hamilton. Brittany is, I think right now, the most muscular bikini competitor who's doing well. Really, really wide in the clavicles, wide shoulders, really built shoulders. I mean, look at that crazy V taper. Now, the thing about Brittany is And it was cool. I was talking to her backstage too. She knows she has big shoulders. She knows she has a wide clavicle base, and she actually doesn't work out her shoulders. She hasn't worked out her shoulders specifically for about 2 years. I might be wrong on that. That's what she told me. She said about 2 years since she's been really working her shoulders. She's just built that way. We were joking backstage, and she's like, I can't even fold laundry. These shoulders will just grow. so one of her genetics, that's a plus, and everyone would want that. But for her, she has to tone it down, and it kind of works against her. But she's done a lot of things to make her physique work. Before, she was really big in the shoulders, and you could see it, of course, but her legs weren't developed to the point of balancing out. So she's actually really balanced her physique out quite a bit. Now, she's still very muscular for bikini. I think it does push the limits on bikini. I think it's a little bit too much. But structurally, remember, bikini allows a lot of different structures. And that's the beautiful thing about bikini, is that it allows all sorts of structures: a petite structure, a bigger structure, a wider clavicle structure, even sometimes a smaller clavicle structure, as long as you built your shoulders out. So it's different amounts of muscle for different girls. You have one girl here who hasn't lifted her shoulders in 2 years. You have another girl here who's brought her weight down 4 kilograms to make this show, was trying to do wellness a couple years ago because she felt like she didn't fit bikini, and that was the only option for her, and liked to lift, didn't want to not lift. So she's like shrinking into the show. She's balancing her lower body into the show. And then we have Amy winning the show. Now, I will say on this show, and it might be who she was next to, I always want to be open and honest and never biased about anything. I feel like sometimes Amy gets a little bit of I don't mean to give her a hard time. I'm just trying to be open and honest commentator from her to Ashley, to my wife, or whoever, right? Always, I want to be unbiased. I always say, hey, she's got a lot of density in her legs. She's got a lot of muscle for bikini. It pushes the limits. Look at Amy next to these girls. Amy looks small next to these girls, right? She doesn't look small by any means, but she's out of these four, she actually makes them look like she's bikini, and they're not, right? Usually it's Amy who's the one that's overpowering everyone with muscle. And we're like, Amy's just a little bit big for bikini. She's like, right, just a little bit past in her legs, like this leg area. I'm always like, it's a little bit past bikini. It's really kind of thick when you see her next to smaller bikini competitors. But then next to this group, I'm like, oh, she's definitely the winner. She's bikini here all the way. Now, I will say too, shout out to Amy on that. When I saw her, so usually I see her, and the only thing I'm looking for is like the density, the separation, the detail, and the density in this area here, where it's always really, really strong, really dense for her in this quad / glute area, where I feel like it's just a little too much. It's a little too thick for bikini. I feel like it's not wellness by any means, but it's like 15, 20% too much for bikini. It's just a little bit too much detail and density for bikini. This is the best I've seen her. It's still a lot, but I wasn't like shocked by the amount of muscle that I saw. Usually I see her and I'm like, it's just, gosh, if she could just fix that, like that's it. That's it for her, and she's got it, But this time I saw it, I was like, man, that's it's pushing it, but it's in the acceptable range. Like, a lot of judges won't have an issue with that at this point. It's going to be a more tough argument than it was last year, because you see her last year and she'd walk out, and even earlier this year in San Diego, I saw her walk out. When she would take those walks, I would see the quads striate. I was seeing a lot of density. When I say density in this area, think of the way I like to explain density is I think of it as like a steak versus like a water balloon, right? You want a water balloon muscle where it's round and full, but it doesn't look like a dense steak. Like, you don't want to see the detail of the meat, right? You want to see the roundness. You want to see that there's muscle there. You want to see a full, right? That's the water balloon. So it's still there, but it's not dense steak. You don't want to see those tendons and the striations and all that in bikini. That is not bikini, right? So that's what I always see with her. This time, a lot better. I got to admit, she's winning me over on that. So I was a lot happier with what I was seeing there. Again, I don't know if I'm just being mesmerized by the other muscle around her, and I'm like, okay, she's a lot better now. But this was a crazy muscular bikini top four. Now, we had another new competitor. Not, I wouldn't say new competitor, but first time come back. She's been off for 2 years. Hayun, if I'm saying her name right, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. She introduced herself. She's really nice. She was talking to me. 2 years to grow into bikini. She took 2 years off to grow. She came back, got her first call out in a tough group. Again, a really, really muscular bikini competitor. I mean, that is a lot of muscle. And let's go ahead and go to the back shot so we can see what we're talking about muscle-wise. But this is easily, and I want to say this is easily the most muscular bikini show that we've had this year. I want to say it's probably going to be the most muscular first call out that we'll see all year probably. I can't imagine there being another call out this muscular, you know? And it's just one of those things, you know, I don't know what the reasoning was. I don't know if because the favorite going into the show was Amy, obviously, and I think that her score was perfect, and there's no knock on Amy. I think that her score was perfect, and she deserved a perfect score. I had her winning right when she came out. I was like, oh, that's it. She's on. She's perfect. Like, give her the win. Perfect score, right? Because she is more muscular, I don't know if it skewed everyone else and skewed the judges to see her, because it was 35 competitors, 35 bikini competitors. So it is tough to judge a show with 35 bikini competitors. I don't know if the judges just got mesmerized by the muscle and they were like, muscle, muscle, muscle. You know, sometimes you get judges that are like bodybuilding judges and you're like, they just always fall for the muscle. I don't know if it was one of those scenarios or if it was Amy is a more muscular bikini competitor, so those are the closest competitors to her. I don't know the scenario there, or if it was just that was the best to pick from that day. Now, looking at the other girls to pick from, there were other options there that could have fit more closely to what we've been seeing traditionally in bikini in the first call out. But at the same time, some of them were a little bit off. So Malu, for example, made her comeback today at that show, and I saw her and I was like, oh, great, Malu's here. Love Malu. She's my friend as well. But I love her physique. And when I saw her, I was like, and I was talking to Kim, I was like, is she on today? He's like, yeah, she's pretty on. And I saw her, she looked really good. She looked really on. And then when she hit her back pose, just a tiny bit soft in the glutes. So if she was harder, would she have fit in and moved into that top four? Probably, you know, probably would have made it. But she was clearly the smallest out of all this group. There was no one to kind of offset her in that group. Maya was the other one that was in fifth place here in this group. So yeah, so Malu looked a lot smaller. So what do you go with in that scenario? Do you go with the muscle? Were the judges just mesmerized by the muscle this time because they're more bodybuilder judges that were there? You know, you had Patrick Sampson was there, Dylan Armbrust, and you had Steve. Was that the scenario, or was it that was the best to pick from? So it's one of those things. It's hard with 35 competitors. What I can say is this is the most muscular bikini show that we've seen. I mean, is it ever? Tell me in the comments below if this is the most muscular top four you've seen in bikini ever. I'm trying to think of another show that was as muscular as this one in bikini where a top four. Maybe overseas somewhere where, you know, there's not that many options. I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Is this it? Tell me in the comments if you think this is the most muscular bikini show, a top four you've ever seen. Definitely 2 through 4, right? Second place through fourth place. Is it the most muscular you've ever seen? But look at the density, look at the glutes. Now, this is kind of funny because when I see Amy, I'm always like, it's a little bit much. And from the back, I think she's really, really good, but she's pushing the limits, right? The legs are super full. The density of the legs are super full. I think the density of her backside is a lot better than her front side. You're not seeing the detail and separation. You're getting good full tie-ins without any etching of the tie-in, and full round glutes. Really good density. And that's really one of Amy's strong points, is that when she walks, the density of her glutes really helps her, because a lot of girls, when they walk, the density of the glute kind of flattens out. And that's something that the judges look for. They look for when you take that step, does the glute stay full or does it flatten out? Amy stays full the whole time. So credit to her. But look at the glutes like next to her. The roundness, the hardness, the etching of the tie-in. I mean, these are some full, really muscular glutes and competitors, you know, on the show, at this show. This is I think it is the most muscular bikini show I've ever seen in the top four. I'm actually I'm actually trying to think of another one that was even close to this, and I don't really recall. So that was the Wasatch Warrior, the most muscular show we've ever seen in bikini. Now, you put it in the comments below. Did the judges get it right? Were there better options? It's just that's who showed up that day, right? It's one of those things. I had a fun time at this show. I'm actually leaving here in another 40 minutes. I wanted to get this out before I leave because we have another show coming up this weekend, and we have the comeback. Well, I don't even want to say comeback. The debut of this year for Ashley Kaltwasser at the Clash. So it's going to be a fun show. I don't think you guys can see it on here. I'll post it up. The link, the show lists are on ifbbpro.com or on npcnewsonline.com. But we have another pretty large show. Bikini season is starting. Look at all the names on that list. There is a lot of names on that list. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. You got some good names in this show competing. We got some Olympians in this show. I think we have 3 Olympians in this show. Lulia's in there. Ashley's in there. Kimber, of course, my wife's competing, so hopefully we can do well at this show as well. And you know, it's going to be a fun time, so I'll be reviewing this show as well. Put it in the comments below. Judges, get it right. Is this the most muscular bikini show we've ever seen? That's what I got. Thank you guys so much. Tune in next week.